Hi, I'm Joy Reymond, and I work at Unum, an insurance company like Tom. Is Tom still in the audience, or did he run away? We did work together at Unum, actually, and I didn't know he was presenting immediately before me, but hopefully it'll look like we're actually joined up, because he has actually set me up well, because he has really positioned some of the issues that I'll be talking about. Perhaps, though, I'll be a little bit more specific, and I've got some particular tools. Now, I can't see the ladies who are supporting me. Does everybody have material on their table? It doesn't look like you do. Okay, I wonder if somebody from the organising could go to the Unum desk and tell the ladies that they need to come in and bring material to you, because you've got work to do. Not really, but I do have some tools for you. There they are. Fantastic. Okay, so let's get going anyway. I'm going to be talking about effective communications and why that's a vital component to mental health in the workplace. Dead obvious, really. But I did want to just set the scene firstly, just to say, the workplace has always been an important contributor to our identity. But now, more than ever, I think it kind of defines us. So it's really, really important that we have workplace well-being. So hence, this is a very important topic for us. Now, today's workplace, I think, is really in the middle of a cultural revolution. Sometimes it feels quite calm, but that's only because we're in the eye of the storm, I think. There's an incredible amount of disruption going on in the workplace about what's expected of employers, and indeed what's demanded of employees. And that revolution isn't complete yet. We're still in the midst of it. The psychological contract, the implicit or unwritten rules of engagement between a person and their employer is itself under some stress. And I think we're still, as a workplace, trying to work it out. And some of this leads to some real discomfort and things which don't quite work well. And so we experience that in various parts of our work life. One sign of this disruption, I think, is how we deal with mental health. And this has changed out of all recognition in the last 30 years or so. When I started work, I worked in an inpatient psychiatric unit, and I hasten to say worked at, but it was affectionately known, and I'm from Australia, so you'll forgive the vernacular, but I worked at the loony bin, and people thought that was a perfectly all right thing to say, that people were off their rocker. And it was that kind of derogatory and devaluing kind of language, which I think has significantly changed. So I think we have to look back sometimes to see how much the world has changed. The reason I think it's important to raise this is that, now we can talk about mental health, but are we any good at dealing with it? And I think that's where we still have quite some work to go. I thought I should get the conversation going by asking a question on Slido, but I have no idea how it works, so I'm just going to go to the next slide and see, does that give me anything? No, it doesn't. Anyone help with the Slido, or can you guys do it? Have we got the question? If not, I'm just going to tell you what it should say, and then we'll do a show of hands. Basically, what I was looking for is what you're finding when it comes to talking to employees about their mental health issues. How confident are you that your line managers can do this well? So I think there are 3 levels. I was going to say, completely well. Does anybody think, actually, I'm really confident that my workplace line managers can do this very well? Good, that was what I was hoping for. Nobody. How about they're all right, but I think they need some help, and some of them do it okay, but I'm not confident that everybody's got it sorted? Okay, good. And the last category is, I think they're rubbish. Yeah, that actually is not uncommon, and good, because that means we're in the right place. it's really important that we have honest and open communication at all times, and most important about mental health issues, because that's the key that unlocks the door for things like engagement and productivity, and incredibly important that we do this with mental health issues. To do that, line managers really need to know their staff. They need to know so that they can spot the signs when things might not be going as well as they should be. And they need to know who to turn to if there is a problem with one of their team members. We find that most companies are fabulous in terms of their policies and procedures. Very, very good. But where we find it falls down is in communicating and taking action when there are problems, and knowing what resources can I call on and what tools are available to help me as a line manager. Again, can I just do a show of hands? Which of you have implemented mental health first aid in your organisation? Oh, that is fabulous. If those of you who don't know what mental health first aid is or haven't really looked into it, please do come and talk to me at the Unum stand afterwards. Very happy to help you get in touch with a great resource. Basically, it's like if you have first aid in your organisation, everyone has a first aider. You really should have a mental health first aider, knowing what to look for, what signs to spot, and then knowing how to do mental health first aid. It's very, very valuable, and we strongly recommend it with all of our clients. So these slides probably, these stats probably don't need reinforcing, but I'm going to just say them anyway, just because I think it does bear repeating. That mental health is the #1 reason for, or diagnosis for, our long-term income protection claims. It is, and it's increasing. 1 in 4 of us will have a common mental health problem at some point during the year. 1 in 5 of us say that we take a day off due to stress in any year. 9 in 10 people with mental health problems still experience stigma and discrimination. So the off the rocker might not be something we say, but it's probably something we're thinking and we're behaving with people. And less than half of our employees feel that they can talk openly to their manager if they're experiencing stress at work, or at home for that matter. So these are pretty dire stats. There is some good news. I don't want to be the bearer of doom and gloom. But if you do proactively intervene during the early stages of sickness, absence due to stress or other mental health problems, we've got research at Unum which shows that if you do that early intervention, you can reduce the duration of sickness absence by up to 18%. So they're taking action proactively can make a difference. And it's really lovely that we don't have to just say we believe. We can now say we know. Getting back to communication and how it can make a difference in practice. I'm going to talk about stress today, although obviously there are many other mental health issues. We've only got a few minutes, and I thought, actually, it is the one thing that most people do observe and experience in the workplace. So I think it makes sense to focus on this one in the short time that we've got. But some of the principles that I'm going to outline will apply elsewhere. The first thing I want to do was to ask you to have a look at some of the materials that the lovely Emily and Lucy, if she's here, have been handing out. And one of them is a set of factors, and I think this is a really great guide for your line managers, not when they've got a problem, before they've got a problem. Part of training and exposure to some of these ideas so that they can start to structure they're thinking about how am I doing as a line manager, but also will help them to analyze what's going on in their own work situation. And so why don't we just get into it? But I should say, you will see at the top of it, I think that might say number 2 of 4 of module 4. You might see right up the top. Yes, module 4, step 2. And thank you. So on that one, you'll see that there are a number of factors down the left-hand side. What I was going to say is that why is that module 4, step 2? We have a stress awareness workshop that we deliver in person or by webinar for our clients to help line managers be more aware of the issues surrounding stress in the workplace. But we also have it as an online module, set of e-modules, so that, because line managers are busy, how can you take them out of their line management to do training? So these e-modules they can do whenever they have a few moments to look at something on a screen. It's set up, it works perfectly on an iPad or an iPhone. We have a functioning example up on a big screen over near the ladies' loo, which is where our stand is. And I encourage you to come and have a look at it. It's a fantastic resource. It's available online, not just to our clients, but anyone who wants to go access it. And this is one of the tools that can be downloaded from that e-module. Okay, so that was why it said module 4, step 2. So the factors down the side, we can all read. So I won't go into great detail, but this is something quite helpful for your managers to think about what are the things that in their immediate environment, under their immediate control, might be contributing to stress in their organization, in their team. So demands, how much are we demanding of or asking of our employees? How much control are we vesting in our employees to be able to manage the way that they do their work? What kind of support do we provide for them? What kind of encouragement do we give them? And what resources are there to support and help them? What kind of relationships are in place? Like, is this a supportive place or is this a place where you have to watch your back? Do they have clarity of their role? There's nothing more stressful than not knowing what am I supposed to be doing here? I don't know what my job is. And change is, we all say we're always going through change, but do you know what I mean? Is that sometimes you say, okay, all change, we're all doing something different tomorrow from what we did yesterday. All of those things can contribute to stress in the workplace. I loved, for those of you who were here before and heard Tom talk about the lion, I think that's a great example of what we're talking about when we're talking about stress. Stress can be actually a very, very good thing. People love getting actively engaged and working at high speed if they feel in control, if they feel that they can meet the demands, if they feel that they are competent, they know what they're doing. All of those things can actually be, although they might tick all these boxes, if people feel up to it, it's not distressing. It's not something like the lion the other side of the door. It's actually an achievement. And I think we need to recognize that actually that's what gets us up in the morning and keeps us going. It's when we feel that all those things that are demanded of us, all those things that we're supposed to be doing, actually we don't think, A, they fit us, or we don't feel capable of achieving those things that are demanded of us. So it's that imbalance that causes distress. So I think we're going to use stress as the shorthand always, because that's the vernacular. But it's really important to know that the stress itself is not just workload, it's not just pressure, it's that imbalance between what you're being asked to do and what you feel capable of delivering. And so a manager, if they have this list and you can walk them through what it is that's happening in their workplace, and then look at, okay, what are the specific potential or issues or risks in my area? That's the first column, in each of those factors. And then think about, okay, have we got in place? And it might be actually quite an encouraging list. So you can actually look with your management team to say, actually, we're doing some pretty good things. Or it might be blank. And the last column is, what could we be doing to reduce the risk? Are there things that we're missing that we could be doing? This can be enormously helpful in planning to have a healthier, more resilient workplace. So for those of you who asked the question about resilience tools, this can actually be a very good, very basic preparation. And I have an apology to make. I've just realized I walked into this without acknowledging that we didn't invent all of these things in writing these e-modules. We had a lot of support from research organizations and the health and safety executive as well. And some of this is their historic material as well. So although I think the people who created this are brilliant, we obviously stood on the shoulders of giants in doing so. So I thought it'd be helpful, although with the shortage of time, I'm not actually going to take you through the case study in much detail. But this is a real case. The names changed to protect both innocent and guilty. And it covers a very familiar situation where a very close-knit, well-run team suffers some blows that you'll recognize of having people laid off. And then, lo and behold, getting a load more work and people wanting to try and control. So in this case, Kim, she comes to her manager and says, I'd like to do things differently or have some of the work moved off because I'm not able to do it well. And I don't like it if I can't work to the quality that I need to. And the manager being very unsympathetic and saying, look, you're lucky to have a job. Times are tough. We've all got to just knuckle down. And in fact, because you're the more experienced person, I expect you to be taking on more of the load and helping those new guys. And this is how we're going to stay afloat as a business. I think we've all had managers sort of had that situation happen to ourselves. And then we have a person who responds to that and says, okay, I'll really pull it together. But then over time, you find that the workplace is not actually doing the things it used to do to support its employees. People are not having Friday afternoon get-togethers. They aren't going out socially because there's no time. And eventually somebody goes off sick, and does anyone call them? Does anyone make them feel like they're valued and important? No, they're too busy doing the work. And then the next sick note comes in, and indeed a person's off not just with stress but anxiety and depression. And we see this downward spiral happening quite sadly when there isn't active intervention. If we had a little more time, I would really like us to have gone through, but I would encourage you to have a look at the case study, and then side by side, if you put the factors, the demands, the control, the relationship, and then you can have a look at the case study and you can see at each point where there were gaps in what the workplace was doing or not doing in terms of managing control, and what might they have done differently. So if we had more time, and I would encourage, you're very welcome to take these and use them as examples for your managers to say, get this conversation going and say, what could we have done? Is this similar to what we experience? Are there things that we could be doing differently in terms of engaging our employees? For instance, if you have to do more work, are there ways in which you can get your employees to identify better and more efficient ways of getting through the increased workload? How might you give them more control? Because people who have more control over their work feel more engaged and more motivated, frankly, to contribute. So how am I going for time? Not much time. Okay, so we didn't get too much time today, but there was one other which I thought, given we want to make this practical, would be valuable in talking about mental health and communication in the workplace. Key for a number of managers that we work with is saying, I don't know how to go about this. I know there's a problem. but I don't know how to broach it. And then we talk to employees who are experiencing the stress or the mental health issues. They are dying to broach the subject, talk to their managers, but don't know how to start. So they're waiting for the manager, and the manager is just hoping it will go away or resolve itself. So we've devised, as part of the stress awareness module, is a little handy, very simple guide called Preparing and Starting the Discussion. And that's the other handout that you should have in front of you. So instead of shying away from having the conversation about behaviours which may indicate a mental health problem or stress, we've suggested that managers sit down and look at, firstly, be clear in your own mind, reflect on what it is that you're seeing, reflect on the situation, make sure that you understand what it is that you have by way of evidence. It's always possible that you might be wrong, so be clear in what you're seeing, because the way you're going to broach this with this person is, what are you seeing? So what are you seeing? What are your observations? Thank you. It might be attendance. It might be the person's not paying attention. You're having to repeat stuff, deadlines being missed. You may discover that somebody has been weeping in the ladies' loo. It might be that somebody just doesn't look themselves. And sometimes that's, you've got a gut feeling, you're not quite sure what's going on, but you are noticing something. Or one of your colleagues is saying, have you noticed something about the individual? And so you're getting indirect feedback. But what are you seeing? It's very important to be to have some clarity about that. You also need to think about what are the logistics. Like you need to prepare. So arranging to have a discussion, like where's the best place to do this? What's the right time? Don't rush it. And can you put it on part of a regular one-to-one if you have that with your employee? Don't put it off, I think, is the other thing, and hope it'll go away. And then some hints and tips on how to actually broach the subject, how to start the conversation, how you might engage the employee, how to start a two-way conversation, and how to, as importantly as being able to start, how to finish it off, how to round the conversation up. These will give people greater confidence if they feel they have some structure. They're not just launching in and not knowing where they're going. And we found them enormously helpful with our e-module training. And so with a few minutes to go, the last thing that I was hoping to just touch on was where this leads in terms of resilience. This was touched on by Tom and I, similar but slightly different point of view. I think what we need to do is enable people to thrive even under less than perfect circumstances. I think it's often the case that we are under pressure, that things aren't going well, that we have setbacks, and the resilience is that ability to bounce back. But it comes from a number of things that you as HR or as your line managers need to be working on with your employees, because it isn't an inoculation. It is something that comes from a number of criteria. And the four that I've seen most crucial to resilience are having a sense of purpose or values, so that you can be decisive. If you've got a setback or you've got problems, you need to be able to make decisions. And if you've got a clear sense of purpose and drive and direction, and you're able to persist even when there are knockbacks, then you'll be able to make good progress. You need to be confident. If people have a sense that they are competent and effective, and they have strong self-esteem, it will enable them to be able to deal with changes in circumstance without feeling, oh my God, everything's falling apart. You need to be adaptable and to the ability to be able to take criticism, because you need to be able to take it on board if you've made a mistake. That shouldn't be the end of the world. And the most resilient people are the ones who, can hear and respond and adapt to feedback. I think most importantly of all in our workplace, though, is the social support. Building good relationships helps when things aren't going well, that you have a support network. And I think on occasion we think of that as, drinks after work on Friday. But in fact, it is part of the day-to-day. Do you trust the person you're working with? Are they there for you? Will they support you? Are you supporting them? That's the culture of the workplace that I think is not something that we can do, in 5 minutes. It's part of the larger strategy for a workplace to build the resilience of its workforce. And on that, I'm going to stop now and just point to, again, because I think it bears repeating, is the resources that we have available. I really think it would help if you came to see the stress awareness e-module. It's lovely, it's interactive, it's touch screen, so you can play with it and see all of the resources that are available at your fingertips. So anyway, thank you very much. You've been wonderful to listen to me rattle on. I'm stopping now. Thank you.